Hello folks! Today is Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. My name is Todor Vodov and this is the 26th episode of Keeping It Realistic. Yeah, you heard it right, it's the 26th episode, not the 25th one, as the official announcement in the group said. Sorry, it's my bad, I just forgot to turn the 5 into a 6 when I made the announcement, so now it says 25, but it's actually the 26th episode as our cover image states here. But now, anyway, apart from this, what we do in this show in collaboration with Chaos is we review up to 7 of the projects posted in the Chaos Campus Facebook group within the last 14 days, the last 2 weeks between 2 episodes, talking about their strengths, but also pointing out their weaknesses and suggesting eventual ways to improve them. We also like to talk about general topics around the group and the visualization field as a whole, mostly in the beginning of the show by discussing recent news, announcements, events, or even tutorials, ways of learning, all of that. And we do all of this as a live session so that you can actively participate in the discussion, interact with me or with each other, or simply say hi. And with this out of the way, welcome everyone. Glad to see you again. How do you do, folks? I see the chat is already really wild. Abdi is here, Amit, Danushka, Simon, I say hi man, hi everybody, glad to see you here. I'm very happy that we get to hang out again. It's been 2 weeks since the last time. Amit says 25 or 26, no matter, it's the best, always. Of course it is. It's always a pleasure with you, folks. And actually in those last 2 weeks, a lot happened in the group. There were a ton of projects that have been posted in it, and it was a pleasure to see this activity not only in the group but also in the group chat, in the Keeping It Realistic chat. So yeah, we'll talk about this later. In the beginning we'll do what we usually do. We'll take a brief moment to appreciate today's cover image. The works contributed were by Abderrahman, Kartik and Rooholah. For Kartik and Rooholah, it's actually a first feature. Abderrahman has been featured a few times already. Congrats to all 3 of you. And if you ask yourself what is the common thing between these 3 images, I think it's easy to guess. It's the length of the names of the original creators. And jokes aside, apart from that, I just wanted to show that on this episode of Keeping It Realistic, we will be talking about vastly different projects, from automotive to interiors to exterior works. And I'm very happy because of it. I really like it when we have really versatile projects to talk about, and not only interiors or exteriors or whatever. And yeah, of course, when it comes to the putting all of these 3 images together to some kind of a composition, of course they are vastly different. However, I always try to search for something which fuses them together. In this case, you see this car here by Abderrahman. It has a lot of different colors on it, and these colors also include this pinkish that we have here on Kartik's work, and also the petrol color that we see here at the pool of Rooholah's work. And this is the way how I fused all those images together. I hope you like this cover image. Now we'll remove it. We saw a lot of it, and we will go to take a look at some campus news. I see Suraf joined us, and Daniel in the meantime. Hello folks, glad to have you on the show. Let's start with the bad news, or let's say just not so positive, moderately bad news, not so positive thing. Almost 2 weeks ago, I asked you with this survey about your current workload, and yeah, as you can tell, 107 people participated in this survey, and more than half of them said that they have a lot of work, but it's not that well paid. Now, obviously, we don't want it to be like this. We would all prefer if the majority of us could just are able to just take this first option, which is the good one, which says there is a lot of work and it's really well paid. at least we have 15% of the group members who were able to say something like this for themselves, and I'm really very happy for them. I cannot put myself into this group, unfortunately, since the war in Ukraine started, as I've told you already a couple of times. The situation here in Germany worsened a lot, especially for artists like myself who preferred not to work with architects but with developers and investors, because these just stopped doing whatever they were doing. A lot of them, like probably half of my clients, just went bankrupt. So yeah, it was not so great for a certain time. In the meantime, I would put myself in this hopeful group. So that used to be worse, but it's slowly getting better. The real issue, I would say, is the people who chose this answer, the bad one. There isn't much work and it's really poorly paid, because it's like almost 20%, which means almost 1/5 of the group members answering to this survey see themselves in this situation. And this is, of course, making me really sad. And I think this is really unfortunate. I really hope this changes sooner than later, because, yeah, this is a very, 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 how do I put it? Like, it's just a bad and sad situation. Now, if you can afford it, then use this time off to work on yourself as an artist, on your skills, on your portfolio, maybe also on yourself as a human, your social relationships, your health, and so on. But if you cannot, which of course is the worst case here, I think maybe think back about Fabian Oberhammer. We talked about him from the Chaos Unboxed event. Dude has a steady job, which is in a hotel, and he just does visualizations when he wants to or feels like it and stuff like it. So maybe this can be a way out, at least for a certain amount of time, until things get better again. But yeah, I'm at least kind of hopeful to see that more than half of the people in this group at least have enough work to come by and put food on the table, even if it's not as greatly paid. At least it's not the option below which says it's really poorly paid. Hamid says, nice cover image, mate. Good work from your end as well. Well, thank you very much. It's sometimes difficult to put these together because, again, the projects are vastly different and they're not meant to go together. But yeah, I'm gladly listening to your feedback about those images. And about this situation here, again, I really hope that it gets better with time. I have the feeling that at least here in Germany, but also I have the feeling in Europe as well, it's getting better. So I hope if you are part of this group, my fingers are crossed that it's also getting better for you as well. And this was it with the bad news, or not so happy news, because everything else we will be talking about will be just good stuff. First of all, we reached the 4K mark. We are more than 4,000 members in this group, and I think it's great news. You can gladly spread the word about the existence of this group to let us and to help us grow. However, make sure to mention that the Chaos Campus isn't just the next online rendering gallery, but an actual community, an actual campus where artists support each other, help each other. And if you want to be a part of it, you better bring this type of mindset with you while entering the group. Daniel asks, what was the reason developers went bust? Well, because of the war in Ukraine, all the prices went up, especially the prices for energy, for gas, for construction materials. So, and these are exactly the things those developers and investors depend on. So if everything skyrockets, they simply don't want to invest anymore. And if they don't manage to get some money back that they have invested, they just simply go bankrupt. This is how it works, and this is unfortunately what happened to some of my clients. Even though they were big, even though just a few years back we worked on projects which were like 1 billion or bigger than that, whole new living quarters, and then this happens. It happens quite fast, honestly. So yeah, it's put in a certain way, people who still have like constant work, even if it's not so greatly paid, can kind of consider themselves not lucky, but not so unlucky. Let's call it like this. Amit says, 3 cheers for the group and all the lovely people here who made this group not only for work purpose, but have developed a relationship with each other like a family. Yeah, of course, this is like the highest level. This is even higher than being a society or, a tight-knit community, is to be something like a family. Obviously, the larger the group is, the less this can, you cannot have a family of like 100,000 people. But I think that we're a really tightly knit group and a nice, close community, and really enjoy this. So yeah, let's keep it up this way. Abdi says, it would be awesome if people would have a greater possibility to collaborate more. But again, if any possible, I do not work in this field and have little to do with Arvis project as such. But I can imagine that the collaboration idea would need some work before it became a reality for some. Just thinking loud here. Yeah, of course. If you have any ideas like this, just put them out there in the group. Let us discuss. Let us see if there are some options like this. Because, there was this idea about having a calendar about all the chaos events. And turns out there is something like this already. I already shared this in the group. There is this calendar. It doesn't contain the group shows. Up to this point, it doesn't. Maybe later it will. We'll take a look at this. But it has all the other major events on and off site happening. As you can see here, you see the date, here you see where it happens, online or on site. And if you take a look at the plus, you can see some further info. And for example, you see April 17th, this is tomorrow. This is where this webinar working with materials in V-Ray takes place tomorrow afternoon. You can register following this page. I will just copy this in the group so that you can actually register if you feel like it. Just be aware that this webinar will probably be more relevant to users of SketchUp, Rhino and Revit, because the user interface of V-Ray for these 3 platforms is fairly similar. So if you're a Max user or a Cinema user, then maybe I don't know, it's up to you if you want to be a part of this or not. If I have the time, even though I'm not a V-Ray user at all, I will definitely be there tomorrow though, because every time you see something like this, it helps you learn a bit more, grow, or maybe refresh some knowledge that you had and you have forgotten. But also tomorrow, the 2 New York events similar to what we had in Berlin in March. This time the Arvis workshop with creative lighting with Nikos, and followed by the Chaos Unboxed event in New York. If you are in this area, check those links for sure, because there is, this is really a great event. I've seen this part here, the Arvis workshop. The second part, of course, the New York Unboxed event will have different guests than the Berlin event. It makes sense, I think, but again, it's a great guest list, so I would gladly be there if I had the chance. Obviously, New York is a bit further away than Berlin, so I won't have the possibility to be there. But if you're somewhere in the area and there are still seats left, gladly take a look at this one. I guarantee it will be a blast. So yeah, I will just share with you this calendar once again, even though I already did in the group. But yeah, let's keep an eye on it, and once all the shows have been introduced to our group and they have found their respective time slots, I can imagine that they can also be included here. And if this happens, then we'll have everything revolving around chaos at one place. And I think this would be awesome. Now, speaking about chaos, let's talk a bit about Project Arena, the behind the scenes, where Vlado and Mishu give us a glimpse behind the scenes of the Chaos Innovation Lab. Also, what we get to see here is a small tour through the Sofia headquarters of Chaos. I've never been there, even though this is my hometown. Next time I'm there, I will... I don't know if they want to see me at all there or not, but if they had a bit of time, I would gladly go visit them, because what we saw in this video, it definitely looks really cool. The working conditions there and the teams and the people working there, just there is this sense of creativity and just a good working atmosphere. This is just what I take out of this video. Of course, the main reason for it is the awesome Project Arena. I won't be spoiling this for those of you who haven't watched it. It's only a week old, so if you haven't watched it, watch it and see if they will be able to play a trick on you as they did on me. But one thing's for sure, Project Arena and the whole development happening at Chaos is pretty cool. I'm really fascinated and convinced that it has a great future, especially when it comes to real life ray tracing and all of these things. So yeah, if you haven't watched it, definitely give it a go. It was great. This is exactly the stuff that we, or at least I, wanted to see from the Chaos Unboxed series. So yeah, it's getting better and better. Also, I see Arthur joined us. Hi, my friend. Amit. Amit has been here since the beginning. Kartik is here now. That's great. Let's continue. Last week we had the Chaos Campus live show with Nikos and his guest Spiros Hound, who is a Greek architectural photographer and just a genuinely pleasant person, in my opinion. This was a long show. This is one of the longest ones that I've seen, and because he had prepared this elaborate and really nice presentation, which I totally appreciate, because he's a professional and one of those who are actually eager to share their knowledge and their experience with the audience, and not just, throw their awesome works in them and be like, yeah, look at how awesome I am. So it was really great, and he shared a lot of he talked a lot about different aspects of photography. So if you have missed the show, I still haven't seen the recording in the group. I assume that Nikos is quite busy with the New York event, but I assume that it will be soon added in the group. If you have missed it, go watch it. Also, Spiros shared some recommendations for good photographers to follow. First of all, Fernando Guerra. I don't think this is a name that needs a lot of introduction. You hear Nikos talk about him almost on every show, and rightfully so. To me, probably one of the best architectural photographers out there. Again, I'll share the link. If you don't follow him, then maybe go follow him and take a look at his works and get inspired by them and learn from them, analyze them. Another name that was mentioned and that I think is very, very interesting is Gregory Crutzen. And this time it's not about ArchViz or obviously architectural photography. It's about cinematic photography and storytelling. So if you don't know him, then this is another one that you should probably follow too. And last but not least, we have Jason Peterson. And this is one very interesting photographer. You see, he has 1 million followers. And the reason we got to talk about this photographer is because I asked Spiros, you remember on the last show, there was this presentation about the Berlin event. And in the beginning of this presentation, I showed you some photos that I made on my way to Berlin. And I recommended to all of you that you just, when you go somewhere, it doesn't matter if you go shopping or hiking or visit a new town or whatever, just take your phone with you and just take photos on the way. And Spiros confirmed two things. First of all, you can take great professional shots with your phone, and this is what this photographer here is very known for. You see, he takes photos with his iPhone, this black and white photography. Just take a look at this shot, for example. This is just an absolutely amazing shot with so much with just great composition, but also wonderful storytelling. And it's just taken with an iPhone, not some $1 million expensive equipment. So yeah, and the other thing that Spiros absolutely confirmed is photography. And we need photography because this is the final phase of our visualization work. We model, we texture, whatever. And then in the final phase of our work, we become virtual photographers. And once we do so, we have to think like photographers and act like ones. And in order to do so, we have to know what photographers usually do. And the best way to train this knowledge and to get this experience is just by taking photos. The more photos you take, the better you will be in taking photos. It's just simple as that. So yeah, this is another recommendation, I will share your the Instagram link with you so you can go take a look at this. Now, enough about photography. Let's take a look at our upcoming show. So far we have the Chaos Campus live show, the Keeping It Realistic show. Last March we also had the first episode of the Viz Academy show. And now the CG Architect podcast is finally coming to the Chaos Campus next week. Actually, April 25th, so next Thursday, the first episode will be uploaded in the group. The guest, Ricardo's guest, will be Neil Griffiths, who's a partner at D-Box Digital. Definitely check out their Instagram page because it's the way they have layouted it is just really, really cool. You know, I personally hate those small square photos that Instagram has. To this day, I still don't know how, out of all options, Instagram won out to be the platform about photos or images. But the way they use it is actually really, really creative. I don't know how it works on a phone. And if it's because, you know, if you just see those fragments, it's probably not as cool as it is here on PC. But what we see here is just really, really, really cool. And yeah. So this is D-Box, and Neo himself is a really creative person. One of those people who don't need to put out something which is like incredibly polished and like perfectly photorealistic. No, he's one of those experimentators, people who just want to develop new skills, test them out, see where they can get with them. You see here, that's just a simple apple and then some Tyflow. Abdi, I'm sure you appreciate this one. So yeah, great guy. I'm very, very looking forward to this podcast. It will be a recording, so you won't be able to ask questions or something, but nevertheless, it will be very, very interesting, I'm sure. Now, talking about learning, we have Abdi's tutorial, you know, the Tyflow for Archviz tutorial series. Abdi, you know him as ASArt 3D and motion graphics. He's doing this for us, more or less for the group. And we already have part 4, which is about making light chains. It is one of the more complex ones. It's not as easy as filling a bowl with fruit or something, but the way Abdi explains it is actually makes it very understandable so that you can follow. And you know, light chains are actually something which adds a lot of nice mood and atmosphere to scenes, especially when it comes to verandas, terraces, balconies, patios, cafe and restaurant outdoor areas, or just private gardens. You can do a lot with them, and usually they're a bit a pain in the butt to deal with, especially if you want a more flexible usage, if you want to be able to push them around as you need. So yeah, doing this with Tyflow definitely makes this possible in a very flexible way. So yeah, go watch this one if you haven't already. It's not that difficult. The tutorial is around 35 minutes. Drop Abdi a like and follow or something, just so that we can support him back as an art of thanking him for what he's doing for us. Next we talked about CG Architect and the podcast coming next week, and now there is this cool video from CG Architect where Ricardo is showing us a modern day Archviz workflow using real-time and AI to create stunning images. It's more or less how image creation, making use of modern day techniques. Mostly it's the real-time rendering with Vantage and the AI enhancement. In this case, I think it was with Magnific AI. But it is a really, really cool video showing just the capabilities, and it's actually truly inspiring to see what tools we have at our disposal nowadays to create beautiful images. And last but not least, we have Artur and Bartosz. Artur is here in the comments. As Amit says, it's a bit of a pity that Bartosz is never here. Not that you're not enough for us, Artur. We love you, man, but seeing Bartosz occasionally would also be pretty nice. honestly. But Arthur says Bart doesn't come out of his coffin during the daylight. I can confirm. I only actually saw him when it was dark outside. So yeah, there is truth to that. Anyway, it's volumetrics part 2, the 18th free lesson. The common points are sharing with us for free. This is just awesome. Here Bart is showing us the practical usage of volumetrics, or how to paint with fog. As usual, it's a total recommendation. It's a no-brainer as always. So yeah, thanks for sharing, and thanks to everyone who's creating tutorials and sharing their knowledge and experience with us. We profit a lot from it. Keep doing this, please. Abdi says, thank you very much for mentioning my tutorials. Appreciate it a lot. Part 5 will follow soon. Well, can't wait. Amit says, Abdi, we will try to make a tutorial on lights curled around the tree trunk and hanging from the whole tree itself. It is a suggestion. I don't want to break your line of work, which you have in mind and in lineup. Amit, as always, having great suggestions and being very polite. Love you, man. Okay, this was the official part. Now, today's episode will probably be a 2-hour one. Now, every time when I prepare the show, I'm asking myself, do I need to do it like this? Would it be enough if I just, take a look at some projects, scroll to the group and be like, your materials and modeling are good, but your whatever framing isn't as good, and then move on? If I did it this way, I think we will finish an episode of the show in around half an hour, and while having talked about every project in the group. However, I don't think that this is the right thing to do. What I want this show to be is something like public mentorship. Like, if I was your mentor and you send me your work and we want to talk about it, and you call me, I would never tell you something like, modeling and texturing are fine, framing isn't okay, and then just end the call, right? We will probably talk for at least 15, 20 minutes or something, and I'll try to tell you everything, all my thoughts I have about your work. So, and this is what I want to do with this show. I want that every work I talk about, every artist I talk about, that they get their respective time so that they can actually profit, because this show is not about me going online and people seeing me and acting like I want to help you, but actually trying to help you in a way that you can profit from and you become a better artist because of. So yeah, this is why some shows are just longer, because I want the artists that I mention and the works that I mention, I want to share all my thoughts about them or on those projects, and as for the others whose work I don't mention, or maybe I don't mention you at all on this show or on the next one or whatever, think about it like this. I mean, while I was studying architecture, when we let's say were finishing a project and we were presenting it, first of all we had to present it in front of everyone and to everyone, not only to our professors, because we had to learn to do this, to deal with a larger audience. But the most important part is that the feedback that we've gotten to our work was also something that everyone needed to hear. So let's say I present my architectural project and then I receive feedback from my professors. Everybody else had to sit there in silence and listen to the feedback that is provided to me. And why is that? It is because we don't have the time to make all the mistakes. Sometimes it's just smarter to see what other people do as a mistakes, learn from them and never repeat them without having made them even once. And when it comes to things that are good, then we don't also have to reinvent the wheel every time. Sometimes it's enough that we just see somebody else do something nice and then we learn from it and then we use it in our future works. So this is why we were obligated to sit there in silence and carefully listen to the feedback of our fellow colleagues, which we studied with, so that we actually profit from that feedback. And this is the whole idea of this show. So yeah, even if it sometimes takes longer and it's like a 2-hour show or something, and I talk about a single work for 15 minutes, this is just the way it is, and this is the way I think it should be. And if you remember, after a few shows, it was last year, I made a small survey and asked you, do you want me to make quick feedbacks, quick reviews, so that the show is shorter, or do you want those in-depth reviews? And the overwhelming majority was like, no, give us the long feedbacks, because we profit from them. So yeah, this is what's happening. So we cannot talk about all the works that have been posted. I told you in the beginning, it's up to 7 works that I talk about. And yeah, in this case, I think it's 6 plus the inspirational ones. So yeah, just please bear with me about this, but it's important, and try to see this really as a mentoring session. Yeah, so that's it. And with this being said, let's jump in the very first project. I'll check the comments quickly. Abdi is thankful for Amit's suggestion. Daniel says, have you tried Houdini instead of Typeflow? It's super powerful. I think Abdi has tried like everything, if you ask me. Yeah, Amit, share an example of this tree that you're talking about, so that Abdi has something to work with. I think it's always very helpful. And generally, if we have such ideas, just let us share them also in the group or in the group chat, and see what others think about it, and so on. It's great. This is what the community does. So yeah, let's take a look at Saurav's work after half an hour of general talk. I think this is the first time we talk about your work, man. I saw you the comments previously, so yeah, let's take a look what you have to say about it. It's called Sunshine. It's done in 3ds Max, V-Ray, Adobe Sampler, and Photoshop. It's located in India. Hope you enjoy it. Now, as this is the first time that we talk about a work of yours, let me explain once again about the presentation, because this is the first topic that I talk about in my reviews. And with presentation, I mean the text part and this, layout part of your project, of your presentation. In the text part, usually it's always great if you have, project name is great. In this case, you also have this software combination that you have used, some additional info like the location of the project. This is always great. Additionally, you can, of course, type something about the project type, if it's like a commercial project, or maybe a personal exercise of yours. Both are fine, but sometimes it changes a bit the way we view a project, if it's like a commercial one or a personal one. Also, it's always interesting to know some backstory on a project, because again, it helps us better understand it and also better evaluate it later. In your case, again, it's pretty fine. Just maybe tell us more about the type of project and maybe some backstory if you'd like to. In this case, it seems like this is a personal exercise, but one can never be sure. We have a group member named Bilal who actually creates very similar looking scenes as marketing for rugs and carpets. So one can never know. Other than that, presentation wise, this part here, I mean, this is not a classic project where you have lots of images and we take a look at if they're consistent looking, if they're varied in their presentation and so on. But what you have here is you have uploaded this video which shows these different stages in the creation of this project, which is always great, very welcome in this group. Also, yeah, we have this beautiful image here, so I think this is great, and we can jump right in your project and take a closer look at it. Now, first, in the beginning of the review, I just share my general or first impression out of this work. And in this case, I just see this very atmospheric scene with a very natural look to it. And I really, really enjoy it. Now, design-wise, given the information that you provided in your description, I would say that the design definitely fits the location here. First, the architectural style, then the warm color palette that you have used, and also the vegetation type and also its density, because the things like this also matter. If you told me that this project is situated in Norway, for example, I wouldn't buy it, because this is not the type of vegetation and not the Norway density of vegetation, right? So yeah, things like this, and I think design-wise, this is really great. Also, I very much enjoy the asset randomness that we have here in your scene. First of all, not everything is perfectly orthogonal as it tends to be on lots and lots of renderings. We see that you turned the chair and the rug beneath it 45 degrees to everything else, which adds a bit of dynamic to the scene. Also, there are lots of random objects just lying around, like the small stuff here on the sideboards. What I also really enjoy and appreciate are the pots for the plants here, because in real life people don't buy like 50 pots, 50 times the same pot, and then they put their plants in it, as you see it in many visualizations. No, oftentimes you actually have very different pots, because especially if you buy the plants in them, they come in different pots anyway. And sometimes you even have a pot that absolutely doesn't match all the rest. And this is exactly the thing that gives this layer of authenticity and like more lived in and lifelike feeling to an image. And this is great. Now, regarding the wetness of the floor, this is a bit of a mixed bag. On the one side, it definitely looks cool. It adds a bit of storytelling. Also, the wet spots here on the floor break the monotony of this empty floor area. This is the great part. On the flip side, however, everything here, what we see, seems to be a sheltered area. Like there is just a veranda, and above there is either a second story of the building or maybe just a roof or something. So I'm not sure how much sense it makes that there is so much water here, because where it rains is where the greenery is, and all these areas, are already sheltered, so underneath the roof. So I'm not sure why there is so much water in here. And the other thing is the wet rug. I don't know if it happened to you that you leave a piece of clothing or a rug outside where it rains. With our kids, it had happened that they drop a hoodie or something, and then it starts raining, and then later we go outside. All the floor tiles are already drying up, but this hoodie is soaking wet and just so nasty to touch. So thinking about how wet the rest here is and already drying up, this carpet will be this piece of cloth that is so wet and nasty to touch. And should all of this, for example, be a commercial for a rug, then I would get rid of this wetness here if I were you. Now, enough about this. This is just thinking out loud on my side. Let's talk about modeling. To me, modeling-wise, generally everything looks fine. There is a good amount of detail here. I really enjoy how some of the tiles down here are sunken in. This makes it again more lived in, more authentic. Now, the windows. I have some issues. I'm not sure about some of them. Let's start with the windows. First, they are very flush with the wall, meaning they line up perfectly with the facade, which is something which I'm not sure is done like this when it comes to construction. Now in Europe here we usually have these holes in the facades. They're called revels, by the way. This is called a revel, and usually the window is just pushed in this revel. You see here a section of this. Now in India I did some research and I saw that oftentimes windows aren't pushed as far into those revels as they are maybe here in Europe. I think that the difference comes probably from the insulation, which is definitely here needed more than it is in India. But nevertheless, I never saw it in a way that you depicted it here, that like they line up perfectly. So maybe you want to reconsider this and push them back in a bit for more authenticity, so that a bit of the revel geometry is visible again. Now, the back wall here also looks kind of strange. The holes themselves aren't so strange, but they usually are the result of something, of a certain brick pattern called the honeycomb bond, which looks like this. And usually when you have something like that, it is you also see the grouts where the mortar is between the bricks, and you can also define the single bricks. But I've seldomly seen it done like this, because in order to make it work like this, you have to make it out of concrete or something, and I'm not sure it works. So maybe you want to give this wall here some brick structure. I think it would be cool. And the last thing, it's not a big point, but you see this rose bush here. It's the only plant in the whole scene which has flowers on it, and you copied it over and you made it smaller, which is okay, but you forgot to turn it around, because we see the same pattern of these roses here. We see it just in smaller next to the big bush, and it just becomes quickly obvious that you have just copied it over and scaled it down. So next time you do something like this, just make sure to also rotate it around, so that we see the same bush from a different direction and it doesn't look copy-pasted, because such repetitions are often the ones that show the viewer that it's not a photo but a rendering, so they take away some of the photorealism. Material-wise, as already stated, the color patterns are very fitting, really like them. The color scheme is harmonious and very localized, if you ask me. I tried to extract it. It's really cool. And by the way, folks, I've already shown you colors.co, but let me show this to you once again. You know, you can use it to extract the color palette from images, from existing images. In this case, I did this here with Suraf's image. I just uploaded it here, and then I extracted the color palette. You see there is this slider up here. If you move the slider to the side, you see that these color pickers start moving around and producing actually very, very different color palettes, which is actually very interesting. You must know that you are always able to move this around to your liking, in order to, if you see that there are some, let's say, main colors, you can actually move the color pickers around until you get those main colors. And with the plus and minus here, you can add additional colors or remove colors if you just want to reduce to, let's say, the base colors. So yeah, and the whole thing in the end you can export as a palette. What I did here is I exported this PNG, and as you can see, it even has the hex codes of those colors. I think this is really, really amazing. If you don't use colors, start doing so, because I think it's really great, especially if you see a great reference and you want to extract the color scheme out of it. This is a great way to do so. Okay, back to the next topic, which is framing. I see Amit says, you're right, Theo, as far as India is concerned, windows are never flushed. Okay, I have, okay, this is about Abdi, and Abderrahman joined us. Hi man, you're not too late, we still haven't talked about your work at all. You see, you're like the fourth in row, so you can get yourself a coffee and come back as well. Okay, let's talk about the framing. I think the framing is very good, very nice. It feels balanced, it feels natural. It also makes sense in terms of functionality, because this is a veranda. Once again, there is a walkway here, people going from A to B, and it's great that there is nothing placed there in the way of people walking. It makes it just, again, more natural. Lighting wise, and this is surely one of the main qualities of this work for me, especially the volumetrics, the God rays that you have achieved here. They give this scene this truly pleasant and serene atmosphere that I very much enjoy. Also, we have some great tonal contrasts. You see here the bright chair in front of the dark column. You see here those dark sideboards in front of the bright wall. Here again, the bright bushes in front of the dark niche. These are those elements, those nice contrasts that add a dynamic to an otherwise static image. The video, so I think this is enough about this. Let me just remove the sound so that we make sure that this video, that our session is displayed properly in every country, because we already had played some videos with music, and then we had the show not have sound at some certain parts of the world because of Facebook and some issues. So yeah, I removed the sound, but yeah, it's great to see this video. It's great to see the single phases of your work and how you add the light and the volumetrics and how you reach this final result, where you start and where you end. It's always great to see something like this. So, and again, it's very appreciated in this group. It's motivating, it's informational, it adds a lot to your project. So in future, gladly keep sharing those. And generally, to conclude all of what I was talking about your work, it's really, really good stuff, Saurav. I'm a big fan of this image. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your next one. Easy as that. Now let's check Sajid's work as a next. It's been a long time since we talked about work by Sajid. I think it was last year as we did, and as I told you already, I always try to rotate the artists and the works that I talk about so that we don't always have the same people that are mentioned and other who are never mentioned. So in this show, for example, we only have people that have never been mentioned before in the show or haven't been mentioned for a long time. Abderrahman says, this image is really impressive, the mood is amazing, has the great post-processed commercial car look. You probably talk about Saurav's image, and if so, I totally agree with you here. Abderrahman, it makes sense. Amit says, Theo, are the tiles on the floor correct with certain tiles being pushed in the ground? I mean, practically, is it okay? Sit by myself. So yeah, let me see. There was a clay model somewhere in the beginning. Well, why not? I mean, oh, come on, stop. Why not? I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a veranda. It's something which is exposed to all the weather conditions, so it makes sense that it's not perfect and that not all floor tiles are perfect. Of course, if you have something like this, it's always a certain trip hazard. You don't want to have it if you let's say it's a newly built veranda, like the whole thing is just being constructed. You don't want to have something like this, but this is not the way I perceive this scene. This scene I see as something which's been standing there over the years already. So seeing like this, it's normal that it's not perfect everywhere, and some weathering can not only happen in terms of dirt or losing color. Weathering can also happen in a technical aspect with something like this. So I don't see it as a big issue. And again, this image is about atmosphere, so I think it makes sense to have such imperfections the same way it has those different pots here. Hopefully this answers your question, Amit. And now let's talk about Sajid. Again, we haven't talked about the work of his for a long time now, so let's see what he has to say about his project. Proposed interior design for residential project in Australia, designed by CH Studio, 3ds Max and Chaos Vantage. Now, presentation-wise, the description is actually pretty informational. We have some info provided, some concept explanation because it's a proposed interior. So it seems like you came up, or this dude here came up with a concept. So maybe there are some ideas that could be shared in the project description. Also, it's difficult to figure out if this is a commercial project and this is like a commercial proposal, or if this isn't actually your idea about a potential apartment that could be in Australia. So yeah, be maybe a bit more specific about this. As for the image presentation here we see what I just talked about on the previous work. We see that a lot of images, but they are nicely varied. They don't just show the same from different angles. They show different situations, which makes them interesting, which makes me want to click on this +4 so that I see the other shots. Also, they're visually consistent. The issue here, they're very, very pale. If you squint your eyes, please do so while you're watching. Squint your eyes and you'll see that what you see is just more or less white, something with some dark sprinkles in it, but you almost cannot see forms anymore. But yeah, we'll talk about this later. Let's take a closer look now. The general impression to me about this project is that a lot of work has been put into this into creating those images, into establishing the scene, modeling and texturing and everything, but that it still doesn't live up to its full potential in its current state. So let's together take a look at why this may be. So modeling and materials are not the issue here. I see actually some great details. If we take a look at the kitchen, for example, and zoom in a bit here on the side, you'll see some really cool details, chamfering and so on. So also the monster sets used are pretty nice, and they're nicely scattered around. Sure, there are some repetitions, like the jars here or those bottles, but generally you see that effort has definitely been put into this work when it comes to materials and to the modeling. And also the assets are nicely scattered. They make sense. They go together well. Also, there is, when it comes to the materials look and act accordingly. They are not the issue. The one issue I saw with the materials is this baseboard material. First of all, it has the wrong tonality, and secondly, the UV mapping orientation seems to be wrong. It's vertical now, and actually it should be horizontal. And also this, this kitchen hood self-illuminated material is kind of unexplainable to me. I don't know what this is supposed to be, some type of light, or I don't know, but this looks weird. But other than that, it's actually pretty fine in this regard. And regarding the framing and lighting, I think we can just start at the first image and take a look and try to analyze where the issues are and what the main issue is. So this is the first shot. We see here the kitchen counter, actually a very nice shot in its essence. My issue here is a bit the framing. Personally, you know this, I like to give the important elements of a scene enough room to breathe, and I don't like cutting them off. So in this case, as you may imagine, I would extend the cropping downwards so that we can see the whole bar chairs without them being cut off. So if this is the original image, I would just extend it downwards, and I think this makes for a better and more balanced composition. Also, you see those two wine bottles towards the edge. Currently, because we have here, everything is so bright in this scene, and suddenly we have those two dark bottles towards the edge. Now, if everything is bright and suddenly you have something bright, then you have a contrast. And if you have the contrast, then it draws your attention. But you don't want your attention drawn towards this edge because it's absolutely insignificant. So what I would do here is I would just remove those. And the other thing, you see those toasted bread slices here, they are very saturated, very contrasty, very dark. So I would desaturate them, make them brighter. And yeah, you see, the bottles are gone. This bread slices are now not so present, not so prominent, and the framing, the cropping is extended, and I think this is a better version of this shot. Let me just check the comments because I see Suraf says something. Hey Theo, first of all, thank you for the valuable comments. I would like to implement those micro details in future. But by the way, sorry for not mentioning, it's my personal free time project. Well, we assumed it is. It's not an issue. Again, it's the first time we talk about a project of yours. But yeah, I'm looking forward to your next one. You do really good with creating nice atmosphere, so keep doing this. Now let's take a look at the second shot. The dining. We're here at the dining table facing the living room in the corner. Sachit is here. Yeah, hi man. Nice to see you. Now listen carefully. This is probably my favorite shot. I really like it. I even consider it to be one of the 3 shots on our cover image today. So much I liked it, you can imagine. Because it has really good framing. It has this really, really nice, very balanced composition. Very sweep depth of field on the foreground. It's good. And your close-ups have actually always been pretty sweet. And I think you even made a step ahead with them now, because this one is really cool. Why I didn't use it on our cover image today is because again, the lighting, the contrasts, the vibrance of this image just isn't given. Everything, again, squint your eye and you'll see that you don't see a lot. Next we have this shot where we are situated in the kitchen counter facing the living room, and here again we have some sweet depth of field in the foreground, also some nice framing through those blurry lamps. But then the area that we look upon is kind of empty. And the thing is, how is it empty? Well, we have a sofa there, so obviously it's not empty. We also have this wall art, but everything is just so pale. It's white in white in white that, again, if we squint our eyes, you almost recognize nothing anymore. And now, let me explain one thing. Having large areas of nothingness is not the issue here. I'll give you an example with, hi Flatson, I'll give you an example with a popular film, Blade Runner 2049. Take a look at this scene here, for example. And you know there is nothing which just happened by chance with this film. When it comes to visual storytelling, composition, everything is just been meticulously planned. So take a look at this scene. You see almost half of it, or 1/3 of it, is just a snowy area with absolutely nothing happening. The other third is just the sky, a milky, overcast sky. And even those brutalist buildings are pretty uniform and monotonous in their looks. So if you squint your eyes, you will see that all of this almost merges together to this nothingness that we just talked about. However, down here, what we have is this very strong and bold contrast. We have these dark figures, the dark backside of the car, and this contrast is why this image is actually cool instead of boring. Now, if we go back here and take a look, we don't have this contrast. The only contrast happening, a bit of it, is with the water, or I don't know, teapot, water jug, whatever this is, here. But it is a small and an insignificant element, and this is not something that's been done for purposefully. It just happened, more or less, and it feels like this. Now, if the sofa had a bold color to it, just imagine it was like bright red or blue or whatever, it had this color, then all this nothingness around it will be great, because this would be the room to breathe for this very strong compositional element. Because you don't want to have, if the couch was, let's say the sofa was this bold color, and you have a framing like this, it will just look cramped and it won't look good. But if you want it to really shine, if you want it to look really strong and to make a difference, then you give it a lot of nothingness around, so that this bold color really shines in this void around it. But you don't have this element of contrast. You don't have a color contrast, you don't have a tonal contrast, you just have white in white in white, and this is why it doesn't work. Sachit says, actually all these things because of the client requirements. Yeah, I understand it. I know clients often, Nikos always tells the story about a client who didn't want to have reflections on glass surfaces on his projects, and he didn't want to. And Nikos had to take them out on lunch and show him that reflections are everywhere where there is glass, because this is just natural. So yeah, clients are sometimes just plainly stupid. Let's be honest. I respect my clients. I love most of my clients, but sometimes they just don't know what they're talking about. And depending on the client, some are actually eager to learn from us because they see us as experts and they want to learn from us. And even if they have a bad idea and we tell them that their idea is bad and they say, oh, okay, it's bad, okay, tell me how to do it right, and you do it right, then it works. But sometimes clients are just stubborn and they don't want to change their opinion. And if they say, no, I want everything to be white, then everything needs to be white. Now you have two options, right? So if you want to do it and still please the client, but everything is white and you cannot place the red or whatever boldly colored sofa in there, then you have to work with light and contrast. We'll talk about it more. Then you have to do something like we saw here, because then it will work. If you cannot do this, if the client is again stubborn, just make your client happy, deliver the images that they want, and once you're finished, before you share the project in the group here, then make the sofa yellow or blue or whatever, and then share the project the way it should be. It says, might be a contrast color cushion or pillow on the sofa or a throw mattress on the sofa, or might be a contrast figure or sculpture in the corner. It must be something. You need the contrast. Kartik says, totally agree with you, Theodor Vodov. Sometimes clients just make simple things way too complicated. Yeah, that's the thing. But again, it's not always meant in a bad way. Sometimes people just, clients think that they have the final responsibility, so it must happen what they think is right just because they have it. They want to do it right, and sometimes they're just wrong, and we have to deal with this. And again, in a situation like this, just deliver the images as the client wants them, and if they're happy, then it's great, and you keep your client, you've made them happy, you've taken your money, and then the project is yours, and it's up to you what you do now. We will just take it, post it online and call it a day, or will you invest some further hours and try to take out all these things that don't work when it comes to composition or lighting or whatever, and try to make them better so that once you share this project online, it's actually looking, at its best. Sachit says, sure, differently. Next time I'll prepare another version for the group. It's not only for the group. The group is not as important. It's your portfolio which is important. You don't have to, cater to us. You have to cater to your future clients. And if you don't want a future client to want something like this, or if you don't want a future client that likes something like this, then have a version of it which works the way it's supposed to, following all the photographics and compositional rules, and have it in your portfolio so the next client that comes at you wanting work sees this image and knows to appreciate it. Kartik says, we just need to try and educate clients in a polite way. If they understand, we get to create a masterpiece. Yeah, of course, it takes time. We have to first prove ourselves. So it takes time. In the beginning of our careers, mostly we do everything we were asked for. But I think with time, we should slowly and gently start showing the clients that we actually know more, because we have visited courses, we have read some theory, we have experimented around and have learned new stuff, and now we're more experienced, we know more, and we should slowly start saying to our clients that we are becoming experts and that they can rely on us to make an image in its best way. Anyway, let's move on. And you see here the next image. Let's go back to the Blade Runner shot, and you see on the very next image you did exactly this. You have your pale surroundings and your contrast object. Here it is, the pale surroundings, everything is blurry and pale. It doesn't matter because you have the tonal contrast here, and it looks great, actually. I mean, your logo is very informative, but it's also very prominent here. It would look better without the logo, but you see, here you have the contrast that we were just talking about. Here you don't. He's just pale. Here you have the paleness in order for this one to stick out that much. The only issue I have here is that it looks like this twig is made of one plastic material, like the leaves, the stem, the fruit, is everything made out of this one green plastic. And it actually reminded me of a shot of mine, part of some real estate project some years back. And you see, I don't have the focus on the twig in this case, but if you take a look at it still, even though it's blurry, you see how the stem is actually brown and has some structure to it. The leaves are two-sided and again have some structure visible. And then the fruit, the olive in this case, also has a different color. So it looks like a natural, real life twig. And if we take a look at this one, it just looks like a toy or something made out of plastic. Yeah, let's move on. But the idea here, this tonal contrast and the surrounding paleness or the surrounding monotonous areas stays, and it works as you can see it. It says, and sometimes, as Theo said, give the clients what they want, and for the next client, try to educate them with modified images of the same old project. Yeah, this is, again, this may be questionable ethics for some of you, but I know for sure from the sources that even the biggest studios do this. They they show on their pages stuff and we think, wow, this is what their clients get, but most of the times this is not what their clients have gotten, but this is the reworked, optimized version for the page. And I do this as well, admittedly. Next, we have this shot where we're in the kitchen, we're looking at the living room, and again, we have the same issue as on this shot here, because we don't have the contrast object. We don't have something to look at. Again, it's a bit maybe disjunct, but this is not an important or essential scene element, so it doesn't make sense. But just try to imagine if this was like blue or red or whatever color, then this scene would be a totally different one, with the exact same framing and exact same everything else being white. Next, we have this shot where we are at the kitchen counter looking at the dining table. I like this one, but I think that the framing here is wrong. I think you're showing too much ceiling and not enough of the things that are actually interesting to see. So I took it. So this is the original shot, and then I just pushed the whole framing, the whole cropping downwards a bit. And this is the result. And I think this is a more balanced and generally better image. Now let's go back here to this shot, which honestly it's an informative one, right? The framing is good, it contains all the essential elements of the scene. This is the good part, but everything else just drives me mad. I gotta be honest with you, because first of all, the first issue, you have used camera clipping, and people who watch this show know that I'm not a huge fan of camera clipping if it's not really unavoidable otherwise, like very small bathroom spaces or something like this. Also, what we see here, we see the living room, we see the sofa, and we see that on the opposite side of it, there is a wall, and there is something, I don't know, probably a TV wall or something else there, and all of this is, because of the camera clipping, is now gone. So the space, the living room space, definitely loses its appeal. It looks like this is this just huge hangar-like space where in one corner the living room is set and the rest of the space, which is maybe of the exact same size, is just empty for whatever reason. So this is not a good thing. And then comes the lighting, which is the main issue of this work. Like, first of all, it's just so unbelievably uniform. Now you'll probably say this is how the client wanted it, and I understand this, but again, you cannot leave it like this, because first of all, you have natural light, but we don't see any of it, right? It's there. You have two large windows, and you have those mostly transparent curtains in front of them. Those curtains don't really stop the light. They just stop the direct sunlight by making it diffuse. But they don't completely stop it. But we almost see no natural light on the inside. And then you have so many light sources. You have the spots, you have this lamp here. But show me the shadows. The shadows that we see are here under the sofa. They're hidden. It's like you did your absolute best to remove every contrast and every plasticity of this image and to make it look as flat as possible and without any depth. This is the final result when you achieve such an uniform, monotonous lighting. Now, again, pulling off white interiors isn't easy. This is true. But in order to make it work, you need to work with light and with shadows and contrast. And let me show you something. Take a look at this work. If you take a look at it, you'll see that here even the floor is white. In your case, you have a wooden floor. Here also the floor is white. The legs of the bar stools are also white. But it works. Why? Because of the light. Take a look. If you squint your eyes, you will still see how there is this cooking area. Then this light here indicates the eating area. Then there is the light here, which is more or less the chill area on the couch. And then there is the natural light. You know, it works, even though it's even more whiteness than on your own project. Take a look at this one, for example. Here, again, so much white elements, including the floor. But if you take a look at it, you'll see how there is natural light, which defines certain parts of the image. Then there are these zones defined by the warm artificial light. You see the kitchen zone, you see the dining zone, you see the real dining table, and you see the chilling zone. And this is all because of the light and shadow. And you see here, this is even, I deliberately shown you two projects that don't have even strong contrasts. They have quite a soft lighting, but still they have some zoning to them. And if you take a look at yours, there is nothing like this. It looks like in this area, you can just take this whole composition here and put it to the left, and then you can take the kitchen island, put it to the right. It would make no difference, because it's like an omni light up here. And this is not the right thing to do. So you definitely need to make this one better and rework it, including the light as your main compositional element. And if you take a look at the kitchen shot, I think this is the last one, because we're already an hour and 10 minutes in, and we have already only talked about two projects. We have 4 or 5 more to go. But anyway, again, I told you that I want this to be like a mentoring session, and if we discuss stuff in the comments, then we will do so, even if it takes a bit longer, because everybody profits from this. Simple as that. So yeah, if you take a look at this one, you will see that this is actually better than the previous one. Why? First of all, the natural lighting to the left. It actually makes a difference. If you take a look at the right counter and the left counter, you see how the left counter looks very different than the right one, even though they're probably made out of the same material. And even if not, you see here the influence of the natural light, and here you see this one is a mix of natural and artificial light. Now let's take a look at the cupboard fronts. You see here, they don't get any natural light, they only get artificial light. The shelves here, the open shelves, who by the way make a big difference, because they have some bright, some highlighted areas, but they also have some shadowy areas. But if you take a look at them, the highlight areas, they're a mix of the natural light coming from the window and the artificial light coming from above. And this image is, because of all the niches, because of all the shadows and the brighter and darker areas, has a way more dynamic and is way more attractive than the previous one, even though it shows less. Of course, it's also a very dynamic shot because of the heavy FOV that we have here. But yeah, it's just better. But again, it's a matter of lighting, and try to discard this uniform lighting. If your clients want this, give them what they want so that they're happy, and then you continue collaborating with them. Don't hate them for that. Just some clients are just like that. If you're not happy with them after a while, if you have better clients, at some point you can just say that you're no longer interested in working together if they, don't let you do your expertise, do what you're good at. Which they will also profit from, because it's not about you showing how cool you are, it's making the best out of what you're given to work with. But yeah, for now you can just give them what they want, and then you can try to experiment with it. Try using light mix so that you can turn on and off the lights. Try to establish a hierarchy with your lighting and see how you can make your work look better, because everything else is actually already there. What is missing is actually the lighting, in order to bring your works to the next level and let them shine as they deserve to. Again, in conclusion, you are eager to put in the work, you are motivated, and this is a wonderful base for advancement, for being a really, really good artist. And you just need to educate yourself more on lighting. So definitely visit the ArcVis Masterclass with Nikos. It happens every month and it's free, and it's great when it comes to lighting. If you've missed the first 4 episodes, then try to watch the other ones that are coming. Also, buy some books, really buy some books on lighting, on interior design. Read them, do some reading online, watch tutorials on this topic, buy magazines and see what it's done there. Take some projects that you like where the lighting is really interesting, really good, really makes a difference, and try to recreate them to see how to do that. And I think this will really, really help you get your work on the next level, because the rest of it is really, really solid. I hope this helps you, and it's time to move on to the next project. It's Kartik. I asked ChatGPT about if it's Kartik or Kartik, and then I forgot what ChatGPT told me. So please excuse me, man. I'll just say it as I see fit. Anyway, Kartik posted 3 different projects. I couldn't decide which one to talk about and which one to review. So given that I think we've never talked about work of his so far since last September, and let's show we had 2 projects that had around 14-15 images each, and all 3 projects by Kartik have altogether 7 images. I thought that I will just quickly review all 3 of them because they're small scale. There is not so much to say anyway, but I hope you guys have nothing against this. And yeah, let's just take a look at the first one. Let's start with this banquet scene. I just see Sachit says, yeah, definitely, thanks a lot. Yeah, very welcome, man. I'm looking forward to your future improvement. Okay, so Kartik writes, hello everyone, project name is Banquet in London. It's done in 3ds Max and Corona renderer. Nice description, informative. You didn't say if this is a commercial or a personal project, but in the comments I asked you and you told me that it's actually a commercial project, which makes it very interesting that I want to know a bit more backstory about this one. As for the image presentation, the images are definitely visually consistent, nicely varied, also nicely layouted here, so it looks really, really good. Let's take a closer look and see what we have here. First, a general impression, I see this truly luxurious and festive atmosphere. It's something like a setup for a wedding or something like this. And I must admit that I very, very much dig it, even though this absolutely isn't my preferred style of decoration, design, or anything. I would consider something like this generally as kitsch. Please don't be offended by this. This is just my personal taste. But I must admit that the quality of those images, the atmosphere, their mood is so good that I actually, that they overcome my taste in this case and actually make me really like what I see. So this is, I think, something great. And now let's talk about the usual points, design, modeling, and so on. So start with the design. Even though it's a certain type of it's very festive, like up to the point of being slightly kitschy. I still wouldn't consider it overstyled. It's just like a preparation for a wedding, and then it's normal for things to look like that. Also, I think that everything that you have scattered also on the tables makes a lot of sense and just adds to this special festive atmosphere of a banquet place. There are some assets to improve, actually mostly this napkin here that we see on this close-up, because we see the edges of it, so just give it some turbo smooth and it should be fixed. I think this was a point that Amit saw and I just repeat it now because I missed it the first time, admittedly. The modeling itself seems fine. The banquet room looks, I think, as it should. Again, not my taste, but it looks festive. It looks like a location for events like weddings and stuff like this. So it's very cool. The assets, again, the table decorations, the tableware look really nice together. Like as a composition, they just fit together really harmoniously. Even the chairs, and I must admit, I'm into metal music and horror stuff and stuff like this. I like it a lot, but I have seldomly seen chairs that are so fucking metal as these ones here, because they absolutely resemble skeleton fingers. Let me show you skeleton fingers. Just take a look at the joints and the structure, and then take a look at those chairs. I have seldomly seen something which is so metal, especially in a location like this. But for some reason, they actually still fit in the whole picture. Materials are really good, make a lot of sense. I really like how nicely they fit together, especially if you take a look at the floor texture. It's some kind of a public floor carpet, and it has this geometric pattern to it, and the color of those pattern lines so nicely matches the color of the tablecloth, which again matches the color of the roses here. So everything just fits together so nicely and harmoniously that there isn't much other option for the viewer than to like what they see, I think. The lighting is also pretty good, as you can see. First of all, this gobo effects from the lighting are very beautiful, and also, if you can tell, the lighting works. So in real life conditions, you can go into this place and just enjoy your time there, because everything seems to make sense. Framing wise, first shot is probably the most atmospheric one. I really like it. It just feels like you're invited to a wedding, and before the official part starts, when you start enjoying your beverages, eating stuff, talking to the others, you just have taken your phone out and have taken a snapshot. It's really cool. Beautiful depth of field, good stuff on the table. It's great. The second one, it's more on the informative side, maybe even slightly cluttered and cramped because there's so much stuff happening, but it still works. Third shot, it's a nice close-up. Now the empty area here is something that a wedding venue, for example, would use to place their text, some kind of wording here, like wedding venue, banquet, whatever, here the name, some address, and so on. So it would be maybe used as a card. Alternatively, for your image, what you can do is you can add some storytelling here. I experimented around with it, and I added a dancing newlywed couple. There you see the bride, you see the groom, and they're just dancing, being blurry in the background. But I think it adds a nice layer of storytelling. Gladly let me know what you think about this one. And the last shot, obviously cool central perspective. This symmetry adds to the overall very festive mood of the shots. So yeah, in conclusion, this is one just really good commercial work. Congrats, Kartik, and we can then move on to your next project that we will quickly review. Here, right, hello everyone, project name is Villa. The idea was to create an image that showcases the correlation between nature and structure. The structure is nested in the lap of nature. It's done in 3ds Max and Corona Renderer. This time the description is better than the previous one. It's very informative. We have a bit of a backstory. We have the general idea behind the image. The general impression is actually that you achieved the goal that you were after, because this really feels like a structure nested in nature. The word nested here is the right one. It's really cool. It could be, for me, taking a first glimpse at it, I would say this is something like the gardens, the backside, the garden part of a health resort. Respectively, I mean, given those free roaming horses, this is pretty eccentric, because usually horses are behind some gated areas or behind some fences. They don't just roam free and just eat the grass everywhere. So this is very eccentric. So given the surroundings, given the exclusivity of the building and the gardens, this could also be the manor of some cartel or mafia boss, for what I know, somewhere in Asia or in South America. But whatever floats your boat, it doesn't matter. It just looks cool. Design, modeling, texturing look really fine. The color scheme here is simple, but it works really good. We have green, some complementary red here on the roof, and then as a highlight we have white, and that's it. Lighting and composition are also pretty fine. We have some great tonal contrast examples. We have the white horses and the hammock in front of this hedge here. We have this sitting group here in front of this shadowy grass area. And of course, we have the building itself surrounded by all this dark and contrasty greenery, which is great. Also, what I really like composition-wise is the mix of those strong vertical elements, so the stems of the palm trees, and the horizontal elements, the ledges, the roof here, the hedge. This adds some dynamic to an otherwise static image. The only issue I have here are the windows, and I think you know that yourself because it looks like a very lazy solution. Let's be honest, I think this is just an asset, and it doesn't even, there isn't even a hole in this facade. You just place the black plane there and you just copy this asset a few times on both stories, and obviously there is this very obvious repetition. All the windows look equal. There are some that have closed blinds or some that where the windows are closed. They are just all equally open. You can pull off something like this if you don't want to invest the time to make actual holes in the facade, put the windows in them and then put some curtains behind or something else. You can work with parallax textures here. Then it may work, but the way you've done it now is a bit lazy and takes away some of the realism, just those just black areas. But other than that, it's a great personal study, and I just really enjoy the atmosphere and mood of this image. And now let's go to the final project of yours. I see you say you love the feedback. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. And the last one, this is called a resort. Hello everyone, project name resort. It's done in 3ds Max and D5 render. The description is okay. It's kind of informative, but as always, I assume this is a free time exercise, a personal exercise. But as always, add some backstory, please. Also, in this case, you tried out a new render engine, so gladly share your experience with it with us. It's beneficial to the group. Now, the image presentation itself is good. It's not, the angles are not especially varied, but the visual consistency is definitely given. It looks nice, so it's great. Now let's quickly review this one as well. So design-wise, I think the design makes sense. It could be a scene in some Eastern Asian resort. Now, my first impression, I forgot to tell you about this. My first impression is that it looks nice, but at the same time, it's also maybe slightly generic. I have the feeling that I've seen these Buddha statues put in some situations with some greenery behind them a lot already. This is a great exercise, nevertheless, especially if you're trying a new render. I'm just thinking about, trying to stick out from the mass. I don't think this is a project that will give you that. It's probably more this one, or even the banquet one. But anyway, materials and modeling, I don't think there is so much modeling here. It looks like you put together lots of ready-made assets, but nothing wrong with that. It's just called working smart. Now, regarding the rock that the Buddha statue is placed on, I don't like this rock very much. I gotta admit it here. First of all, the form of it, it's kind of very soft, and the second thing is that the texture looks kind of weird. Is it by any chance this D5 parallax displacement? I mean, this is something which is, I don't know, I've never tried it, but it sounds definitely interesting because it's like a mix of bump and displacement. It acts like bump. It doesn't cause any actual geometry, but it acts as if it would create actual geometry, but it's flat, something like this. So maybe this is the explanation why this stone doesn't look that great. I don't know. Lighting wise, the lighting and the composition are really fine. There is some great tonal contrast here. We have the dark greenery as a background, and in front of it we have this greatly lit Buddha statue. We have this strong compositional lighting as if it was some natural spotlight coming from above, which is great. And these hazy volumetrics that you have here around, I think they make a lot of sense because they suggest a certain amount of humidity, which on a place like this is something that to expect and makes a lot of sense. So in conclusion, this is another good exercise. The only thing I'm not sure about here is when it comes to lighting composition on the first shot, if this light here being turned on, this is probably some kind of a lantern, doesn't take away some of the focus, but it's not a big deal, honestly. It's a matter of taste, more or less. So in conclusion, to all three projects, quality stuff, Kartik. I've known you for years now. We know each other since the 5-step render workflow group, and your hard work is definitely paying off because you have advanced really, really a lot. So keep up. Kartik says this was already Rocker said, still working on the quality of materials in D5. Mike is there. Hi Mike, lovely image. And Kartik says, yeah, I agree with you. I'm happy to hear this. Let's move on to our fourth project for today after 1.5 hours. But again, sometimes we talk more in the comments and discuss general stuff, and then it takes a bit longer to go through the projects. Okay, let's hear what Abderrahman has to say about this very cool automotive project. Hello everyone, not Arvis this time. This was my actual first automotive project using V-Ray GPU, doing the materials and lighting was the most fun. Although Corona's workflow is faster, I do like V-Ray a lot, mainly for the speed of GPU rendering. I really like the colors of V-Ray and the volume. The last colorful renders at 8K, so I assume these are the colorful renders Abderrahman is referring to, took 47 minutes in 8K resolution. This is respectable, which is amazing, and Corona takes 5 hours at 3K for no volumetric studio shots for me. This for me, by the way, is great, because one shouldn't get the impression that Corona will always render at least 5 hours or something. Definitely depends on your rig or your on the scene itself, or if you use proxies or not, and everything. But it's very, very interesting to hear this comparison, because 8K for 47 minutes or 3K for 5 hours, it's a big difference. One thing I miss is, let's take a look at the downsides. One thing I miss is mainly all render layers working in GPU version, but even more so caustics. Caustics are very necessary, but V-Ray GPU does not support the caustic solver. It works with V-Ray CPU, but this kind of defeats the purpose. Obviously, if you would do it in V-Ray CPU, you would just do it in Corona, because your workflow is faster there. For me, which is render speeds and quick previews. If you have any technical questions, please drop them below. I think this is a great, truly great description, because not only are you explaining your workflow, but you're providing a lot of useful technical info in form of those comparison between V-Ray GPU and Corona CPU. Also, what I really enjoy is you being open for questions, being like, hey, if you have something, drop me in the comments, I'll respond. And you actually did. I asked you stuff and you answered all of my questions, and this is exactly how it should be. This is exactly how we want it to be in this community. So awesome presentation. As for the image presentation itself, obviously it looks good. It's not visually consistent, but I don't think this is the goal of this project. You were experimenting, you were trying out different things, so obviously those images are not consistent among each other. The ones that belong together, however, are consistent. So I think this is good. And my general first impression is that, first of all, I think you had a lot of fun while working on this. But most of all, it seems like you really, really wanted to create something unique and original here, to leave the beaten path and try out something new. And this is exactly how it should be. We should try new things. We should try to find out a way to stick out a bit, not be hipsters about it, or just do stuff differently for the sake of it, but there are options, and you very much prove it with this project, because there is one option, is this very classic automotive shot, but one can go further and become more abstract, or one can go absolutely nuts and become completely abstract, and all of these options are actually legit. So I love this. Now let's take a look at the single components of the work. First, the modeling. You said that you modeled only the car body, and it looks fine to me. The rest of the parts are scraped from some other models. I think that a license plate would be great, because it just makes it, especially for a shot like this, which is on the more realistic side. I think that the license plate, usually the license plate has the initials of the city that this car company is situated in. So when you have all the BMW, Mercedes, or Volkswagen, it would be German cities and German license plate. Just a small tip here. Now, the surroundings, when it comes to the modeling, I think that this surrounding here is, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not your, you have made this exterior scene with the mountains in the back and then some lake in the foreground. Is it the same lake and mountains, or is it just, let's say, you use the knowledge that you gained on that project, and then you made it fully new surroundings for this shot? I don't know, but whatever it is, it looks cool. Material-wise, the materials look good as well. Of course, the car is overly clean, which, if it wasn't about the car, wouldn't be very realistic. In this case, however, it's like a project shot, so the project should be shiny and clean and perfect, so that's okay. Now, I would say let's start going through the projects, through the photos or the shots one by one and talking about them. So first we'll start, I will finish with this one. The first one we'll talk about would be this one. This is for me the classic automotive shot, which has beautiful lighting and generally beautiful mood to it. The car is also beautifully placed, like the central element here, and especially with your company's name down here and with the lettering, it really looks like an actual advertisement. What I like to do in such cases is I would just place a huge Audi logo here and take their font and then write some stuff there so that it looks like a real advertisement. I think it's just more impressive this way. Talking about the scaling, I'm not quite sure. I think that this whole thing is a backplate on HDRI, right? So on this one, you worked with shadow catcher and wrapper material, if I'm not mistaken. So when we do something like this, it's always difficult to have, the car being in have the exact proportions as it should have in real life. So in this case, it might be slightly bigger than it should be, but on the other hand, this specific Audi is actually quite a large car, so I cannot tell. The only issue I have here are the contact shadows, because again, I think your workflow here was with shadow catcher. So obviously what you do afterwards is then you place the car with its shadows then atop of the backplate. And usually this happens when we try to show more of the underlying structure, the asphalt in this case, or the concrete, that in areas like here, the contact shadows become too bright and start looking like they're missing, especially here and here by the front wheels. I think the shadows should be darker. But apart from this is really cool. Next, we go to the mountain shot, as I call it. To me, this is the more exciting and interesting one compared to the previous one. Abderrahman says, I agree, shadows were a pain. They were too dark at first, so I had to add some slight ambient lighting to make it less dark. Yeah. But in the way they are in the moment, they are way too bright. You see here the shadowy area in the back. It's almost pitch black. So I think it should be at least the way it is by the wheels, by the back wheels, by the rear wheels. Okay, now back to the mountain shot. Here again, this one is more abstract and to me also the more unique one. We have those unusual surroundings and also those motion blurred light effects, and there is nothing that you've left to the chance here, because those lights here, first of all, they add a lot of dynamic to the car. Second of all, they aren't the colors that you've used, they have a meaning, especially when it comes to vehicles and cars, because the white is just the light produced by the headlights and the red is the light produced by the rear lights. And the way you have layouted those motion blurred lights is also very, very smart, because most of them you have placed behind the car, but then you have this red one here, which is something like a palm, which is holding the car and presenting it to the viewer. And I think this is really, really smart and greatly pulled off. Only issue here, sorry, before I move on to the last one, only issue I have here is that in the reflection, we see the underside of the car. And as you can tell, the underside is just looks like a simple plane or something. And if you've seen an actual underside of a car, you know that it doesn't look like this in real life. So yeah, this is a bit of an issue. Maybe you should try to darken this somehow so that it's not as visible as it is now, because it takes away some of the realism, because despite all the abstract surroundings, the car is still very real, so its reflection still has to be real, in my opinion. Now let's go to the caustic lights version of this car's marketing campaign, and this definitely is the most unique and exciting version of these shots, in my opinion. The lighting here is the obvious highlight. I think we can all agree on this. You said you achieved this by adding caustic maps to your lights. Important here to know, for everybody seeing this and thinking, wow, that's a good idea, is as far as I know, those caustic maps that you can download online, this just look something like this. It's similar to gobos, actually. They don't work with the Corona or V-Ray lights. They work with the native Max lights, where you can then just add a map, and in this case the map would be just a caustic map. So you achieve this effect with lots of colorful caustic maps, and it's really looking really cool. Abderrahman says, actually it's a funny technique that I did. I just stretched out very old artworks of mine. I used them as an alpha. Why not? So the motion blurred are just old artworks stretched. Well, as far as it works, I don't think it doesn't matter. You don't have to work hard, you have to work smart, right? So yeah, anyway, this looks really cool, and I think you can tell by the light beams that you see here that they have some kind of map to them. Again, it could be a caustic map or a gobo map, but this would be a way of achieving an effect like the one you see here. The final result is what counts, and it's truly unique. It's very cool to look at. Now, those flare effects that you have here, they're a matter of taste. Let's say it like this. Personally, I'm not a big fan. They kind of give the whole thing a needless retro vibe, something like an 80s porn movie. I don't know. It's not my style, definitely. I would get rid of those if I were you. But again, it's a matter of taste. And when it comes to this final, it's actually the very first shot, but the last one we talk about, it's very cool and interesting because it's not the usual lighting for a close-up. When we have a close-up, we usually try to make the details on the object we focus on stick out. In this case, however, we don't see much detail, but we are still in this awesome mood that you've set here with your lighting, and this is why I still find it pretty cool. Not very informational, but very emotional. So all in all, Abderrahman says they actually do work with V-Ray lights. Well, okay, gobos don't work with Corona lights, but it's good to know they work with V-Ray lights. Thanks for clarifying this. And yeah, in conclusion, dear Abderrahman, great job. Similar to Kartik, I see a lot of passion in your work. I see an artist who wants to achieve something and actually puts the effort, tries everything, using old works of yours, just using all techniques at your disposal to create something new and unique and interesting. And again, similar to Kartik, I think you rocked it and you achieved your goals. So keep doing this. I'm looking forward to your future projects. Next we have Rooholah, which is very interesting because to me Rooholah was a solely interior artist, and as I saw him sharing this exterior work, I had to talk about it. So let's see what he has to say about it. It's an exterior project, visualization is by him, architect is Azi Ben Shoshan, and it's done in 2024. Description is okay, kind of informative. But of course, it needs some further info. First of all, is it a commercial one? It seems like this, but we cannot be sure. Also, software combination used. We don't know which software you used for this one. Maybe some project background. It looks like a very interesting project, so it would always be interesting to hear more about it. But other than that, the description is okay. And as for the image presentation, I would say the angles are really varied. There is great visual consistency among the single shots, so this works. Let's review it. First impression, to me, it looks like some common art daily photo session of a villa, which means that at least at first glance, the shots appear very authentic and realistic and professional, and that is actually great, especially given that you're primarily an interior artist. So yeah, that's great. Let's go back to the first shot. The villa design certainly is exciting, especially seen from the street side. I really like it. Now, the positioning of those fairly private areas, we have here the fire pit, we have the, let's say, patio furniture, we have the pool, and then they're so close to the public area. You see, we have this walkway here, we have the street. So, you're in your pool being half naked, and then you have, people just walking like 1 or 2 meters away from you. To me, this is, when it comes to privacy, this is a bit of a difficult one, admittedly. But maybe I've just become too much of a private person for the last 20 years living here in Germany, so who knows. And the other thing which I'm not sure of are those stepstones that we have here behind the house, because it seems like they're leading nowhere. Like they lead up to this wall, and then you have to turn around and go back, which makes them kind of pointless. But again, maybe some people just enjoy going back and forth on their property. It's their right to do so, right? Modeling wise, I think that the modeling is pretty solid. The street space I really liked. It looks pretty good. The building is also complex on its own, and I think you pulled it off pretty nicely. The amount of detail on it is actually absolutely sufficient from the distance that we view it from, because we never have really close-up shots. It's also great to see some furnishing on the inside, because it just gives the whole project this lived-in feeling. It's not only the outside, there is something happening also on the inside. The plants, the furniture, the cars, the vehicles used, they all have good quality. What I'm missing a bit of maybe is some more stuff on the terrace areas, something like potted plants or some furniture, stuff like this, which gives the house this more lived-in feeling. And also when it comes to those curtains, these are just standard white curtains. Remember, there are also other alternatives to curtains. There are blinds, and if you want to use a curtain, there are also colored curtains and stuff like this. So yeah, maybe you could be you could have a more interesting approach in this regard. But other than that, modeling wise, there isn't much to say. Materials mostly look fine. The color scheme is pleasant. It's more or less monochrome with some blue and green, which I like. And this is why probably the brown wooden deck that you have around the pool is bothering me so much, because this color suddenly appears and it's so saturated and so present in the scene that it kind of looks foreign to it. And again, I don't really think it fits. Even though we have some brown on the palm trees, the amount of saturation on this deck is just over the top, in my opinion. Now, the facade material looks good from afar. Seen up close, it's probably maybe a bit overscaled and maybe also a bit too bumpy, but nevertheless, it mostly looks good. The garden wall material, I don't think it works the way you have depicted it, because you have those stones on the side, and then it's like flat on the top. Usually things don't look like this. It looks like it's missing some kind of a closure. If you had a closure, as you see here, you have those rough stones on the side, and then you have mostly flat stones as a closure at the top. This works, but only just cutting the stones here and making them plain, this doesn't really work like that in real life. And when it comes to the floor of the pool, I'm not sure about it. It looks like it's made, let me just scroll there. It looks like it's made out of these prefabricated concrete components that have been used for a while now because they have strong weathering on them. And to me, I don't think this makes a lot of sense because it's not like the pool was built like 20 years before the house was built. They were probably all built at the same time, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't really make sense for this to look this weathered. And if it's not weathering, if it's algae or something, then it makes the people living there look very unhygienic. So I would rather just take some kind of a clean concrete, something like what you have on the sides or something else. But I will get rid of this type of dirty, mossy concrete. It's just not a good association. Lighting wise, I find the lighting to be generally pleasant. The natural lighting mostly works, not on every shot, but mostly works. It fits the scene and this type of architecture because from an architectural point of view, those overhanging roofs usually are meant as like some kind of natural or man-built shelters from the sun. So you need sun in your scene in order to demonstrate this. When it comes to the artificial lighting, it looks cool. The spots themselves, this lighting stripe which is going around the house, they look cool, but they don't have a really strong impact. Because let's take a look at this area, for example. You see you have something like 6 or 8 spots here, but you see that the area here is completely dark, as if they weren't turned on. So it looks like they're just on, but they don't emit any light. So you may want to take a further look at this. Now, framing-wise, let's just go back to the very first shot and go through the shots one by one. Starting with, this central perspective of the house front. The framing here is good. The cropping is very precise. The composition I find to be balanced. The lighting, however, is questionable because it seems to come from it's not even 90 degrees to the house. It seems to be even more than that. So the house, which I think is the main actor of this scene here, is actually in the shadows, while the street space, the walkway, and things like that aren't actually significant are beautifully lit. So I think in this case, if I were you, I would just rotate the sun until parts of the facade at least are illuminated, so that we can concentrate on the house and not on the walkway in front of it. The next shot, it's the angle shot by the pool side. It's a dynamic shot for sure. It's a very aggressive shot almost because of the low focal length value used on the camera. Here we have these very sharp pointy edges, but at the same time this of course means also heavy distortion, which it's up to your clients if they like it or not. The bottom left corner doesn't really play along with this composition in my opinion. Also, it doesn't really add any information to it. So if I were you, I would either put the camera like slightly forward so that what we have in front of us as a foreground is only the pool water, or I will pull it back to the deck chairs that you have on this deck, so that the field of view becomes a bit more normal. Next we have this angled shot of the front. I really like this one. The composition is nice between those very high palm trees, and the positioning under the sun here is very good because again it greatly thematizes the sheltering role of those overhanging roofs. Then we have this entrance area, the angle shot of it. It seems like you followed the rule of thirds here, but it didn't just really work out. It's great that the home palm tree fits into the cropping, but I think you should move your camera to the left and then rotate it a bit to the right so that we see the edge of the villa next to the palm tree and it's not just covered and hidden behind the palm tree. Next we have actually what I suggested here as alternative for this shot to pull back the camera and have a bit of a less strong FOV. This is what you did here, and I actually prefer this shot. It's more authentic, at the same time also less dynamic, that's true. Maybe use some depth of field on the chairs here. Next we have this the side view of the house. It seems you were a bit stuck with this aspect ratio that you started working with, and this is not always a great thing. You know, there are even movies that they change the aspect ratio within the movie, let alone images. So always try to get the best and most fitting aspect ratio for your shot, and not just always go with the same one because it's just more convenient. So in this case, personally, I don't think that the portrait format is the right one. I think the landscape format will show this lengthy form of the facade in a better way. So I did something like this. To me, this one looks better, and you can of course even extend the shot more and make it even the cropping smaller to emphasize this lengthy structure. So something like this, if you wish to. Just as an idea. So don't be a slave to your aspect ratio, and try to always pick the best one for a certain angle, based on the contents of that angle. Next we have the stepstone path, a central perspective on it. The framing and the lighting are good here, even though there is a second version from the opposite side, which I prefer to this one. Two things about this one. The scattered grass here looks kind of uniform and not really that realistic. And the second thing is that those stepstones usually aren't done like that. So if you have gravel, then the stepstones are higher. If you have grass, then the stepstones are usually lower, so that you can actually mow over them. Sorry, I had somewhere reference. Yeah, you see what I mean. So if it's gravel, the stepstones usually stick out of it, so that you can clean them and you don't walk on gravel. And if you have grass, the stepstones are actually pushed into this grass, so that you can get your lawnmower and mow your lawn atop of the stones. Because try mowing around those stones. You take ages to do so. But enough about this shot. Then we have this entrance situation, another very dramatic shot because of the high distortion here. It's cool, it's dynamic. Maybe just use some depth of field on the car roofs, because they're not significant in this case. Then again, this is the shot I mentioned before. This is like the opposite side of this stepstone path. I find it to be even better than the previous one. And even though it's pointless just going back and forth here, I think I would actually enjoy it, because it looks pretty cool. And lastly, we have the entrance parking area. It's an informative shot. We see that you can park two cars that barely fit, actually. But yeah, we have very, very heavy distortion here, which you actually don't need, because your space isn't limited. So in a case like this, just pull the camera back and then give your camera a higher focal length value in order to make the proportions of the shot seem more normal and avoid distortions like this. And in conclusion, very solid work, Rooholah. As it's, again, even more so given that you're primarily an interior artist who doesn't do this often, but looking at this one, I think that you definitely actually should be doing this more often. And with this, we arrive at the almost final project for today. We're at the 2-hour mark. Sorry for that. I warned you in the beginning. I hope that you're still there. Let's take a look at Smith's work. Smith is sharing nice more exercise with us. He writes, I'd like to present something interesting that I've been working on. I've recently delved into Corona Render and 3ds Max, and I'm eager to see what we can learn from this. If you're interested in viewing my portfolio, here's the link. Good description. Glad to know you're now part of the Max and Corona Users Club. Welcome, we salute you. I hope you enjoy this software combination. I definitely do, and been doing so since 2019. Also, the Viz Academy webinars that are happening in our group on a monthly basis will be the right things for you, because they're mostly in 3ds Max and Corona, even though the knowledge that you get there is also something that you transfer over to V-Ray exactly as well. So yeah, if you're here with us in the comments today, gladly share your thoughts about working with Max and Corona. And also, generally in future, gladly tell us more about the project. I assume this is just an exercise project for you to test out this new software combination, and that's fine. As for the image presentation, it's visually consistent, it works. Let's take a closer look. My general first impression is for a simple yet quite pleasant scene, which is good for experimenting and fooling around with, because it's not too complex, it's not too heavy to render, but it's still also not soulless. You can still add it to your portfolio in the end. Review-wise, I think that the design sticks out pleasantly, especially the wall cladding. It's very interesting. It's simple, but it leaves a nice impression. And it's not only the form of it, it's also the color. And generally, talking about colors, the warm color palette here is very welcoming. You know, when it comes to public areas, you don't want them to be as warm as this apartment, but this is a private area, an area that should feel welcoming, that should feel like you know, where you go and feel safe and warm and so on. So this warm coloring is actually a great thing about it. The space dimensions on the other side aren't that great in my opinion, because at least seen from this perspective, it looks that the dining table is pretty cramped between this sideboard and the sofa, and that there is not really enough space for the chairs here, or if somebody sits on the chair, for somebody else to walk past to reach, let's say, the chair in the distance here. Now, again, this is probably not the most important thing on an exercise project like this, but it still needs to be mentioned. The other thing that I see here immediately is that there are too many lamps. Now, if we take a look at the pendant above the dining table, this one definitely makes sense. Looks good, has a nice tonal contrast to the wall behind it. Just leave it. The second pendant in the corner, it seems to be turned on, it produces no light, it looks very lost. Just get rid of it. And this table lamp here, I mean, it looks nice, but I don't think that you really need it in the middle of the table underneath a pendant lamp. Also, there is no cable leading to it, so I think it would be it would make more sense if you just swap it for this situation here. You have this water jug with two glasses. Maybe put them on the table and then place the lamp on the sideboard instead. Of course, if you don't want to be that casual or so standard, and you want some more storytelling, instead of a water jug with two glasses, you can put something more interesting, something that has some storytelling to it. Something like, you know, a puzzle box with somebody who has started doing a puzzle, not the person, just a started puzzle, or a Lego box, or cards, or, you know, a newspaper with glasses and a pack of cigarettes, something like this, something which tells a story. Modeling wise, pretty solid, good assets, not much to say. Materials seem fine as well. The sofa fabric looks great. The lighting is also quite pleasant. I really enjoy the design gobble on the wall, as Nikos would put it, and also the long shadows and the light on the floor beneath the table. It's really, really beautiful. The artificial lighting, however, is barely there. It's barely visible. Maybe if you placed this lamp somewhere here, because this area here is kind of dark, then make sure that it actually shines, that it produces and emits some light, so that it actually makes a difference. Other than that, it just looks like a deco element. Framing wise, we have only two angles. On the first angle, we have the isometric view, which actually has a good framing. It's also an interesting angle. And then we have the close-up. Now, the close-up has really nice depth of field to it, with a good focus on those books, and I think this is a lantern. Composition-wise, however, it feels a bit off, because we have this large image, and in 2/3 of it, nothing happens, and everything happens in this bottom right corner, in this 1/3 here. So I think the solution here would be to to have something here to even out and balance out the composition. However, I wouldn't put an object there the same way you didn't put an object here. I would do the same what you did here and have some light there, because as you see, this wall doesn't look empty, but it only has some light and shadow on it. So what I would suggest for here is again some light or shadow here, and instead of an actual object. And if you want to have an object, maybe you can have a small vase similar to the form of this one, and then you have just one palm leaf in it, because the palm leaf is continuously green, and then you have all this red color here, and these two are complementary, the green and the red, and together they will make for some really nice color contrast. And yeah, I think that's it. In conclusion, it's very nice, very good, very promising first attempts of yours with 3ds Max and Corona, and I think you had a great start, so keep pushing and gladly share your progress with us in the group. And by the end of this show, we actually finished talking about projects. It's been 2 hours and 5 minutes, but I still want to show you something inspirational. So yeah, let's just quickly take a look at this. First, it's this project by Nicholas Burial himself. You know Nicholas, he's one of the co-founders of the Chaos Campus, and also, of course, the man behind the CG Spectrum visualization course. So let's read what he wrote sharing this project with us last week or 2 weeks ago. Hi guys, today I decided to do a small personal project I thought I'd share with you. The intent was to play around with NURBS using plasticity and see how that felt. This project was first time I've opened up the program. After modeling everything, I imported it into 3ds Max and used V-Ray for the materials and lighting. I spent a few hours modeling everything and getting used to the workflow, and about an evening on materials, textures and lighting. The project is from a company called Teenage Engineering. Now, why do I show you this? I don't want to talk about the projects or review it. I'm just showing you this because it's I think very motivational to see how Nicholas just said, you know, I just want to try hard surface modeling, NURBS modeling, this new piece of software called plasticity. As you know, most pieces of software out there have a free trial version that you can try out without spending any money. And you see, he didn't spend weeks or months taking courses and learning. No, he just spent a few hours, maybe a day, doing this, and he ended up with a very nice portfolio project and with some new knowledge, and let's say a new tool for his work. And I think that this is something that should be inspiring for us. I didn't know plasticity. I checked it out. I found this video getting started with plasticity for beginners. It actually, the modeling there looks really, really fun actually. So who knows, maybe next time that Nicholas has to do something like this, he won't do it in Max, but he'll do it in plasticity, save some time, have more fun while doing so. And you know, why I'm just showing you this is just to get some motivation, to try out new stuff, to step out of your comfort zone and see if there is something, you know, don't just, you know, start with 3ds Max and then die with 3ds Max. And it's nothing against 3ds Max or any other piece of software. It's just, I think the more we know, the better, because then we can use those tools when we need them. We have a wider spectrum of knowledge, of experiences that we can get back to when we need to. And this is why I'm showing you this, just to motivate you what can be achieved trying out something completely new just within a few hours. Of course, Nicholas is a very, very experienced artist, so for him it's maybe easier than for somebody else, but the point stays, just try some stuff. You'll be surprised how easy or pleasant sometimes trying something else is. Next, I wanted to show you something just quickly. This work by Ali Reza, he shared it in our group. I wanted to talk about the power of lighting. The whole project is pretty dope, the interiors, the exteriors, but I want to concentrate on only these two first images. So we have this exterior. It's obviously about, it's a new studio for space architecting in the Netherlands. So it's a project about architecture, right? So it's about this building. And as you can tell by this image, the building maybe makes 1/6 or 1/8 of the whole image. The rest is grass, trees, bushes, shrubs. And it's not like we haven't seen sky or grass or shrubs or trees, but I think that the message of this image here is, look how, similar to what Kartik made with his free time exercise, look how our new office building is nested into nature. Look how it's just a part of it. It doesn't stick out much. It's just in it, and it's surrounded by nature, and we love this. This is the message on this image. When we take a look at 2 images further, you see how this is a different image. But why? The camera angle is the same. The contents of the image are the same. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed is the lighting. But the message here is a vastly different one. This time it's, look at our cool offices. Because we have the light, we have the focus on the inside of the building. So again, the framing stays, because this connection to the nature is obviously very important to the architects and their new office. However, with this shot, they want to show us their office finally. Whereas with the first shot, they would want to show us the location of their office. So you see how by remaining angle, contents and everything, just by changing the lighting of a scene, you can completely change its message. This is what I wanted to show you. Of course, take a look at the rest of the shots because they're really, really good. But yeah, it was about this general message. Amit says, if Nikos was around, he would have jumped with joy looking at the lighting. Yeah, rightfully so, because the lighting here makes a difference. This is the creative lighting. This is what the whole thing is about. What the hell happens? Because this is why you should be utilizing lighting in your work and not just simply lighting it up, illuminating it up so that people see the contents of the work. It's giving messages with it. And the further projects that I wanted to show you here are just some examples of works. I very much frequent the VW Art Club. Here is a project. It's Concept Apartments by Matthijs de Bruin. And it's not like the most gorgeous interior you've ever seen, right? I think this whole project is about the exterior and the interior of the building. And usually, in my experience, when you have a project like this, you have a certain amount of time to work on it. And as exteriors are usually more work, more elaborate to create, because if you take a look at the interior, there isn't so much work here, but take a look at the exterior. You have all the urban elements and the trees and the surrounding buildings and the grasses and the bushes and the building itself. It's just so much to work on that usually the interiors then aren't like the highest priority. And if you take a look at this, take a look at the windows. You see that they don't even have a lot of detail to them. I don't even see window handles in order for these windows to be openable. But it doesn't matter. What matters here is the light. If it was the usual case that we often see in our group, just the neutral white plane in front of the windows made invisible so that it brings light on the inside, the curtains are pulled shut, then this interior would be almost depressing, because again, it's not something very special, modern, or especially beautiful. But with this lighting, you see the open door, which gives this connection to the outside, the open windows, and then this beautiful sunlight coming from the outside. It suddenly becomes a very lovable and very pleasant interior, right? Next, let's take a look at this one. This, of course, this is like some villa. I'm not sure if this is a recreation or an original project by Gustavo Herrera. It definitely looks great, but take a look at the light. In this case, the light is leading us. It's visually leading us inside from the outside. It's taking us from the outside area and it's leading us into this interior area. And of course, you can make this overcast. But again, overcast lighting, in my personal views. Overcast lighting is great when it comes to presenting something in its truest form. Let's say colors and stuff like this, materials. If you wanted to show this wood, and this is like the most important part of your message here, or of your of this shot, it's like presenting the materials as they are. Because take a look at the wood here. The sunny part, there is a lot of this warm sun going onto the wood, which makes it very saturated, very orange, very warm. And then there is the shadowy part where it's desaturated, where it's too dark. So you cannot actually see how this wood actually looks like. If you wanted to, you have to go with overcast lighting. But if you want to create more atmosphere, or something like a visual gesture, as in this case, where the lighting is leading you into the insides of this villa, then the sunlight is the better option. Of course, this project has lots of good ideas. Here you can see an evening shot. Here the sky is overcast. Why? Because the dark clouds make it possible for these glass railings to actually become visible and stick out, because otherwise, glass railings often are not really easy to be seen. And then take a look at this bedroom. Now, we have talked a lot about bedrooms in this show, and you know how when it comes to bedrooms, this is a place that we go to rest, to wind down from the busy day. So we don't want bold colors, we don't want heavy contrast, we don't want strong sunlight in there. But this doesn't mean that it means that the only option left is just overcast lighting. No, take a look at this. It's not overcast. We have this, I don't know, maybe slightly hazy sunset, or it could be even sunrise. I assume it's sunset. And the lighting is soft, it's mellow, but it's atmospheric, and it's way, way cooler this way. Now let's take a look at some other examples. Of course, this one, it's over the top, admittedly. Probably in most cases you won't be able to deliver something like this to a client, because they'll say, yeah, let's say the client is a developer and they develop an apartment building and they want to sell apartments, and you give them images like this and they will be like, yeah, how will my clients tell what type of wood they have on their floor, because everything just looks orange. So yeah, this won't work. So you got to figure out what your clients need, or the clients that you want need. Let's say it's Scandinavian minimalism shot at overcast lighting. Then do a project like this, okay? Do the Scandinavian minimalism, have the overcast neutral white lighting, and put this project in your portfolio. So you have something that your clients potentially need. But also next, do something like this, because this is the thing that grabs the attention of those clients. Because even though they may end up wanting this Scandinavian overcast interiors, if the only thing they see is a sea, an ocean made out of such interiors, they will just go for the one which is the cheapest, most probably. It just makes sense. But if they see an artist who can do something like what they need, but they can do also more, something like this, they will probably show some interest in an artist like this. So this is what I recommend. Have the types of projects that your clients may need, but also have projects like this that also draw the attention, not only the attention of potential clients, but also the attention of the 3D community and something like this, because you never know, maybe some big studio also wants to work with you at some point. And looking at this, it's just amazing. Just take a look at those shadows and the light and the interplay that we have here between shadow and light. If Nikos was here to continue what Amit said, Nikos would say we have here design gobu coming from the curtain, and also natural gobu coming from the plant. We have both here, and it makes everything just so lively, so atmospheric, so nicely moody. This is just amazing. These are few good images that people gladly see, gladly share also on social media and so on. So it makes sense to do something like this. As you can tell, the whole project is an atmospheric one rather than an informative one or a selling one. But again, it's important to have projects like this. The last one, this is of course great. I asked Mohammed if he rendered the cat just some stupid CAD model and then enhanced it with some AI tool. Or if you use matte painting, in his case, it's matte painting because he's obviously capable to pull it off, and it's great. But these are the images that stick around. These are the images that people remember. Try to do images like this, please. Next, we have a simpler study by Branko Jovanovic, another great artist I know from the VW Art Club. Take a look at the lighting. Take a look at this. I think the last shot is without it. But even on this last shot, even though we don't have direct sunlight coming in, we still have very interesting lights and shadows. They are very subtle, but they are there on the wall. But if you compare to the original shot and to all those versions where he experimented with lighting, just take a look at how much emotion this sunlight is adding to the scene. It's not only what happens here on the wall, it's also the reflection on the floor. So be inspired about something like this. And alternatively, this is something vastly different. And the last thing I show you for today, because it's always been 2 hours and 20 minutes. Alternatively, you see, we just changed where something happens with this last project. So far it was always the sunlight making it interesting, and in this case we have this casual neutral white light, but on the inside is the colors, the color contrasts, the boldness is where something happens, and suddenly this interior absolutely shines. Just take a look at the colors, the contrasts. These are the types of projects that people remember. And these are the types of projects that draw attention. So don't always play it safe. And if you have an odd project like Sachit and you're not happy with the way it turned out because your client just wanted something which doesn't look great to you as an artist because you know more than your client, then try to rework it. If you're Sachit, for example, go back and make this sofa colorful. Give it a bold color. Make something out of it. And you will see how your portfolio will profit from it, and your knowledge will also profit from it, your whole experience as an artist. So yeah, with this, I think we are at the end of today's session. Once again, big shout out to everyone who makes this group be the awesome creative community it is, with constructive feedbacks as usual. Amit, but also Danushka, Nico, Chris, the people in the chat, Simon, Katzper. For everyone who makes those tutorials and shares them, Abdi, Konstantinos, the Common Point folks, thanks for being active, thanks for being open for questions, like Abderrahman in his post. Yeah, don't forget, next week or tomorrow we have the free webinar working with materials in V-Ray. We talked about it in the beginning. On Thursday we have the webinar, the Viz Academy webinar with Mike live at the Chaos Campus group in the afternoon. Don't miss that. And yeah, I think that was it. 2 hours and 22 minutes later. It was a pleasure hanging out with all of you as usual. Have a good rest of the week, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks, same time, same place. Next show won't be as long as this one. Stay safe, be healthy, rock on. Ciao, my friends. It was a pleasure.